Hello everyone, welcome to Synthesis IAS Academy, a place where blend of ideas take place. About me, I am Sandeep Bhushan Thumala and my credentials are I have 10 years of teaching experience for civil services and I take up issue-based current affairs. And this session will certainly help you to crack prelims and mains examinations because throughout my session I would be emphasizing on the keywords and the key phrases. And these keywords and the key phrases will certainly help you to crack prelims as well as mains examinations. So do watch my session completely and then do get benefited by my session, that is the issue based current affairs topic. And the topic for today is anniversary of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. So definitely we will focus at the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A, which has brought in the Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh as the union territory. And while we are focusing at the topic of the anniversary of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, we will also look into the subtopic of the anniversary of J&K and Ladakh. That is, we will focus at the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A, and along with that what the new Jammu and Kashmir domicile rules have come into existence, and in regards to the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A or the repercussions or the consequences of Article 370 and 35A abrogation, we have seen the Public Safety Act and the prevent detention has also come into existence. So we will focus at the preventive detention under the Public Safety Act, and we will focus again what is the Public Safety Act, which is again very crucial information for the prelims as well as mains UPSC perspective. And apart from that, what are the various transformational developmental activities which have been taken up in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh union territories by the government of India, and what are the various confidence building measures also being taken up by the government of India so that the Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh union territories are actually into the mode of the development, and there is certainly a confidence building measure taken up by the government so that people there do not feel that they are left out because of the creation of bifurcating of the Jammu and Kashmir and the creation of two union territories, that is Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Now we'll get into the topic. The first subtopic is abrogation of Article 370 and 35A. So it was the vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi that one nation, one constitution has to exist in India, and for that they have effectively removed, that means the government of India has effectively abrogated Article 370 and 35A. It was on August 6, 2019. The centre has withdrawn the Jammu and Kashmir special status, under which was earlier prevailing under the Article 370 and 35A, that was being withdrawn on August 6, 2019, and by that the Jammu and Kashmir state has been bifurcated into two union territories, that is Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. And after this there was definitely a sense of what will happen to the permanent residents, which was given a special status by Article 35A, and now the legislature itself is in a position to decide the permanent residents, that means who would fall under the ambit of permanent residents, and this is in regards to the prohibiting a non-Jammu and Kashmir resident. That means a person who is a non-Jammu and Kashmir resident will not be, earlier was not allowed to buy the property, but now they would be allowing to buy the property, and also in regards to the job reservation for the resident. So it is in regards to the permanent resident has to be or is decided by the legislature that is in regards to the non-Jammu and Kashmir resident from buying the property, and also in regards to the ensuring job reservation for the residents of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. And now we will look at what are the rules, various rules or the domicile rules which has come into existence so that the permanent resident would be having, or the permanent resident will be eligible for few jobs, that is gazetted and non-gazetted post, and also various other civil services posts. So we will look at what is Jammu and Kashmir domicile rules, which is again very important, crucial and critical information for you all as a civil servant aspirants from prelims as well as mains conceptual understanding. And the Ministry of Home Affairs has issued the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Adaptation of State Order 2020. So this is the order which has been issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs, through which it has amended the already existing 109 laws and it has repealed the existing 29 laws, and wherein they have inserted, that means Ministry of Home Affairs has inserted a clause called as domicile clause. It has inserted a clause by Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Adaptation of State Laws Order 2020, which has amended 109 laws which was pre-existing and repealed the existing 29 laws, and also inserted the domicile clause in the Jammu and Kashmir Civil Services Decentralization Recruitment Act 2020. So domicile clause is inserted in which among the following acts? It is inserted in Jammu and Kashmir Civil Services. Please do understand, it is not inserted in the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Adaptation of State Laws Order 2020. It is domicile clause is inserted in Jammu and Kashmir Civil Services Decentralization and Recruitment Act 2010. And under this Act 2010, that is Civil Services Decentralization and Recruitment Act, a clause for permanent resident of the state has been substituted. Now for the permanent resident of Jammu and Kashmir state, earlier, now the union territory has been substituted by domicile of the union territory. Earlier it is state, now it has been substituted the domicile of the union territory, which was the permanent resident of the state. Please do understand, earlier the permanent resident of the state has been substituted by the domicile of the union territory, and this act is pertaining to employment in civil services. So the act which we are talking about, that is Jammu and Kashmir Civil Services Decentralization and Recruitment Act 2010, is pertaining to the employment in the civil services, which comprises various districts and divisional and state cadres. So it is pertaining to the district level cadres and divisional level cadres and the state level cadres. And the permanent resident of the Jammu and Kashmir are also earlier were eligible to apply for gazetted and non-gazetted post. Earlier only permanent residents, earlier only permanents of Jammu and Kashmir were eligible to apply for gazetted and non-gazetted posts. And these amendments now, in regards to the inserting of the domicile clause in the Civil Services Decentralization and Recruitment Act 2010, now this amendment allows even the non-domiciles to apply to these posts. So this is the one which is the major happening in regards to the inserting the domicile clause in the Civil Services Decentralization and Recruitment Act 2010, wherein the non-domiciles can also apply to the post of gazetted and non-gazetted posts. And the union government has also issued a notification in regards to defining the domiciles of the union territory of Jammu and Kashmir in regards to protecting of the jobs pertaining particularly to Group D category and entry level non-gazetted posts. So it is in regards to the non-domiciles can also apply for the gazetted and non-gazetted posts as per the amendment of the Civil Services Act, which we are seeing decentralization. But now in regards to the notification defining the domiciles of the JNK for protecting the jobs are in regards to the Group D and entry level non-gazetted posts. But in regards to the gazetted and non-gazetted, if you look at the gazetted and non-gazetted, even the non-domiciles too can also apply to this post under Civil Services Decentralization and Recruitment Act 2010. And if you look at the order, it defines what is domicile as per the domicile in the union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. That means a domicile, or else the one who is called as a resident of that particular area is now defined as when he would be residing in a particular area for 15 years in the union territory of Jammu and Kashmir, or if the person has studied for a period of 7 years and appeared the class 10th and 12th examination in any of the educational institutions which are located in the union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. And the other one is, or wherein he is registered as a migrant by the Relief and Rehabilitation Commissioner, that is migrants. So there are three scenarios or circumstances wherein an individual can be referred as being a domicile. That means first is he should be residing in an area for at least a period of 15 years, or else he should be studying a period of education of period of 7 years and appeared for class 10th and 12th examination in any education institutions in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. And the third one is should be registered, or he can be registered as a migrant by the Relief and Rehabilitation Commission. The keyword is should be registered as a migrant by the Relief and Rehabilitation Commissioner. And the reservation for the domiciles will not apply for Group A and Group B, but it will be only for Group D and entry level non-gazetted post. But it will not be applicable. The reservations for Group A and Group B, it will not be applicable. And like any other union territories, the Union Public Service Commission recruitment would also be taken up in regards to the Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory. And now we will focus what is the consequences of abrogation of Article 370 and 35A in Jammu and Kashmir, or else the erstwhile Jammu and Kashmir state, which was bifurcated into two union territories, that is J&K and Ladakh. And post that we have seen various political leaders along with the former chief ministers were also put under preventive detention. We would also were under preventive detention under Public Safety Act. So we will look at what was that in regards to the preventive detention. We have seen two former chief ministers, Farooq Abdullah and Omar Abdullah. So Omar Abdullah's father is Farooq Abdullah. Farooq Abdullah's father is Sheikh Abdullah. And we have seen even not only the two former chief ministers, but another former chief minister, that is Mrs. Mehbooba Mufti, was also put under preventive detention. And earlier two, first was Farooq Abdullah, who was out of the preventive detention, and later on Omar Abdullah, and now Mehbooba Mufti. But Mehbooba Mufti is now totally not from the preventive detention, but she is shifted to her guest house, which is turned as a jail, which is her actually official resident, has been designated as a subsidiary jail, and she remains in detention under the controversial Public Safety Act. So this is the keyword which you need to, you as a civil servant aspirant, which is very, very important to focus on the Public Safety Act, both for prelims as well as mains examination. So here in this case, when we are talking about Mufti was shifted from her guest house turned jail to her official residence. So from guest house she has been brought to her official residence, but now the official residence is designated as a subsidiary jail, and she remains still in detention under the Public Safety Act in regards to the preventive detention. And this concept of house arrest, that means now she is detained in as, or she is now in a house arrest, but the concept of house arrest is not specifically mentioned in the criminal manual. So if you look at the word, if you search in the criminal manual, you will not find the concept of house arrest, but the state is empowered. Please look at it here. The concept of house arrest, you do not find it, or there is no mention in the criminal manual, but the state is empowered to declare a building or a house as a sub jail. That is why Mehbooba Mufti, she has been shifted from a guest house which was earlier turned as a jail to her official residence, which is now designated as a subsidiary jail or sub jail. Through such declaration, that is by the concept of house arrest under or preventive detention under Public Safety Act, the residential accommodation of some political leaders have been converted into subsidiary jails. And this is the fact, and this is what has happened after the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A in Jammu and Kashmir, so that the government of India has made it very clear in regards to making sure that keeping in mind of the public order, the three former chief ministers were under preventive detention, two were released, and the one that is still under house arrest is Miss Mehbooba Mufti. And here if you look at, Mehbooba Mufti's daughter Iltija, Iltija, Iltija has approached the court and she has gone ahead with a writ petition, that is habeas corpus writ petition, and the court will now decide this on October 15th of 2020. This is the latest information. So Mehbooba Mufti's daughter has approached the court that how can or how long, even the Supreme Court has also responded to the petition file, that is in regards to the writ petition, that is habeas corpus. In regards to the habeas corpus, that the Supreme Court has asked the administration of the Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory how long you would keep an individual under house arrest or under preventive detention. It has asked, and then the next hearing will be on October 15, 2020. And when we look at the resident of a subsidiary jail, that means the person who is actually resident of that particular house automatically and undeniably under detention or preventive detention. It is generally called as house arrest. When an official resident is converted into subsidiary jail, it is commonly known as the individual is under house arrest, and the residential accommodation of the individual which has been declared as a sub jail in the state is virtually, or the state virtually acquires and takes over the property. Look at it under preventive detention of Public Safety Act. When a residential accommodation is declared as a sub jail, the state virtually acquires. Look at it, the state virtually has the entire command over that particular residence, or not all, and it also takes over the property for its own purpose of treating it as a sub jail. So look at it, the preventive detention under Public Safety Act, how powerful it is, and the owner of the property is entitled to rent or compensation for the use of occupation of the property. So the entire property virtually is acquired by the administration of the Union Territory, but the owner of the property is entitled for rent or any compensation because it is being used as a subsidiary jail. And now we will focus at what is the Public Safety Act. What is Public Safety Act? So this act, that is the Public Safety Act, was promulgated in the year 1978 when Sheikh Abdullah was the chief ministerial tenure, or he was the chief minister of J&K. In the year 1978, the Public Safety Act has come into existence. And who is Sheikh Abdullah? Father of Farooq Abdullah. And Farooq Abdullah is father of Omar Abdullah. And Jammu and Kashmir Public Safety Act, this is 1978, Jammu and Kashmir J&K Public Safety Act is a preventive detention law. So look at it, what has happened. The one who has brought in this act, Sheikh Abdullah, the scenario was so that Sheikh Abdullah's son Farooq Abdullah was also detained under the same preventive detention law, that is Public Safety Act, which was promulgated by Sheikh Abdullah. So look at it, the way scenario does change, and it is, that is, the Public Safety Act is as similar to National Security Act. So you have these two acts, please do keep it in mind, and then do have some short notes for mains examination. Public Safety Act and National Security Act, it is similar, but Public Safety Act was enacted 2 years prior to the National Safety Act or National Security Act, which has come into being. And this is, as we looked at, it is an administration detention law or a preventive detention law, which allows detaining an individual up to 2 years. Please look at it, up to 2 years without any trial or charge. So without any trial or charge, the individual can be detained up to 2 years under Public Safety Act 1978, which is a preventive detention law. And this act also allows a person to arrest and detain without any warrant, without any specific charges, and for unspecified period of time. Look at it. The person can be detained or arrested without any warrant, without any specific charges, without even intimating the person on what charges they are detaining, the police or the administration, and detaining for unspecified period of time. So there is no specific period of time. It is detaining is up to 2 years, but it can be extended. And this is as per they would be looking at it in the case whether it is in the manner of prejudicial, that is whether it would be harmful or damaging if the person would be released after 2 years, if they feel so, whether there is any security to the state, then a person can be again extended for unspecified period of time because of the maintenance of public order. Because of the maintenance of the public order, that is prejudicial. What does it mean? If it is harmful and damaging, if the person is been released even after 2 years, which would cause a problem to the maintenance of law and order or to the public order itself, then it can be extended to unspecified period of time. And this detention order under Public Safety Act is issued by, this is important, by divisional commissioner or divisional magistrate. So it is by DC or DM. The order, that is detaining order or preventive detention order under Public Safety Act, will be issued by divisional commissioner or divisional magistrate. And this point is again important for preliminary examination point of view. And there will be a body called as advisory body, which is a non-judicial body established under section 14 of the Public Safety Act. And why this advisory body is established as a non-judicial body under section 14? Because it will be, or it will act, or it will work to review detention orders. So if there are any kind of review to be done to the detention order and to determine whether there is sufficient cause for detention, so definitely whether they can be extended for any unspecified period of time, and if there is any possibility of reviewing the detention orders, so for that there is an advisory board which is non-judicial body under section 14 of Public Safety Act. And when a person is arrested under PSA, they do not have any, or they do not have limited rights. So any kind of rights, whatever they have in general, they do not have rights before the advisory board until unless there is any sufficient grounds which an individual can establish that the detention is illegal. That means a person who is been arrested under PSA do not carry any rights or with very limited rights before the advisory board. He can have even the limited rights until unless there is specific ground which the person can establish that the detention being made or being taken up by the administration is illegal. Only in that case he would possess few limited rights. And after the amendments were made to the Public Safety Act in the year 2012, so in the year 2012 there was amendment being done to the Public Safety Act. So this, after this, the detention of a person below age of 18 was strictly prohibited. So after the amendment which was made to the Public Safety Act in the year 2012, since then the detention of person who is below 18 years was strictly prohibited. So you cannot detain a person who is below the age of 18 years, and that is after the amendment being made to the Public Safety Act in the year 2012. That means prior to 2012, even a person or an an individual who is below the age of 18 years, if the police or the administration feel that there is difficulty in maintaining the public order because of that person's behavior, so they can detain it. But after the amendment, this is crucial. So amendment to the Public Safety Act 2012 provides that detention of the person below age of 18 is strictly prohibited, and as per the section 13 of subclause 2, detaining authority need not inform. Look at it, there is, as we have seen here, they can arrest a person without any warrant, without any specific charges mentioning the person, and they can be detained for a unspecified period of time. And along with that, now the detaining authority need not even inform the person or the detained individual the reasons why they have taken action. If it decides, who decides? The detaining authority itself decides that it is against the public interest. So the person being in the society is against the public interest. If the detaining authority feels so, then the detaining authority need not even inform the person who is to be detained the reason why they are detaining. And this is as per section 13 of 2 of the Public Safety Act. And you have another section of the act, that is section 22, which provides protection for the action taken. So it is providing the protection for the detaining authority. Please do understand, this section 22 is very important, because section 22 of the PSA Act provides protection for the detaining authority for any action taken in good faith under Act, that is Public Safety Act. So the detaining authority, there is no suit against him, no prosecution or no other legal proceedings against any person, that is against one who is part of the detaining authority, which he is performing a task or taking an action which is in the interest of the public. That is, he is doing the action or he is performing the action in a good faith, in pursuance with the provision of the Public Safety Act. So that person, there is no suit against him, no prosecution or no legal proceeding itself. So that is empowering the detaining authority and the people involved in the detaining authority to take an action to detain an individual without even informing for what action they are detaining, is as per section 13 of 2 and action as per section 22 of the PCA Act. They have all the protection. And now after the PSA, now we will look at, that is, what are the development which have been taken up by the government of India in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh after the bifurcation of the state Jammu and Kashmir into 2 union territories, that is JNK and Ladakh, that is after the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A on August 6, that is 2019. So the government of India views the effective removal of Article 370 as a key vehicle for the transformational development. So if you look at this keyword, so the government also looked at it as a key vehicle as transformational development. So what kind of transformational development is actually the government of India focusing in JNK and Ladakh union territories? They say that anti-terror operations have been executed in a very coordinated manner, and now they are also receiving support from the local resident, and this is a form of the transformational development. And the residents of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh now can aspire for the same opportunities that the residents of various other states in India are actually aspiring, and they have various other opportunities the same way of the other states of the residents do have or they are actually experiencing now. And the other transformational development is that the government's commitment to holistically integrate, look at it, This is a keyword. So by abrogating Article 370 and 35A, as per the Government of India, it says that it is committed to holistically integrate the Jammu and Kashmir, which was earlier segregated or secluded from the rest of the states in India. Now the Government of India is committed to holistically integrate the region, and this is visible in the new programs which the government is taken up or it is being launching. And now the program or the mission which has been taken up by the Government of India is National Saffron Mission, and this you have the cultivation of the land, that is 3,500 hectares of land which is of saffron. You have saffron being cultivated, and it is called as saffron cultivation, and the mission is called as National Saffron Mission. And definitely the saffron which is grown in Kashmir has been has got the GI tag also, that is geographical indication tag, which can really make sure that the one who is involved in the saffron cultivation will definitely have a prominence because of the GI tag. Now the saffron can be exported and then they can make a very good profit also. That is also a transformational development wherein the government is taking up by various schemes which it is launching. And then it is the government is also in the form of incentivizing the farmers so that they can introduce, the farmers in Kashmir can introduce high ultra density plantation for apple and other fruits which can be grown in Jammu and Kashmir, and then later on they can be exported and then they can have a very good profits also, the farmers, or that is the incentivizing farmers keyword. And GI tag for saffron, preliminary examination point of view. And the government is very focused in regards to the infrastructure, tourism infrastructure to be upgraded in Jammu and Kashmir, and that too it will be taken up in a mission mode. That is, along with the tourism infrastructure, even the Bijli, Sadak and Pani issues are definitely part of the transformational development which has been taken up by the Government of India, which are being addressed as a war footing by the Government of India. And in regards to the another scheme which the government is taking up along with the saffron national mission or saffron cultivation, the government is also focused on Udan scheme. So what do you mean by Udan? Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagarik. So UDK, that is A and N, both all this acronym is Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagarik. So they wanted to boost the terrorism by connecting the 11 airports in Jammu and Kashmir and 2 in Ladakh. So the connectivity, they wanted to go ahead with regional connectivity, and by emphasizing the regional connectivity, there could be a complete success of Udan scheme and boosting of terrorism, especially in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, by having the connectivity of 11 airports in JNK and 2 airports in Ladakh. So Udan scheme is also very important. You can consider it as a keyword for both, for prelims, and you can make a note as a short note for the mains examination also. And the Government of India is also certainly focusing on the health sector because it is part of the transformational development which the government is focusing in Jammu and Kashmir in regards to or by opening 2 All India Institute of Medical Sciences hospitals and 5 new medical colleges. So look at it, the government is focused that the people of Jammu and Kashmir or the citizens of Jammu and Kashmir will reap the same benefits which were being or is being reaped by various other, the citizens in various states in India. So health sector, tourism sector and then farming is also taken into consideration as part of the transformational development. And Ayushman Bharat scheme is now also available to all the residents of Jammu and Kashmir. That is on the sidelines of the COVID-19 pandemic situation. The center is also providing all the necessary infrastructure and the logistic support for Jammu and Kashmir to counter or to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic situation successfully. So here the keyword is the Ayushman Bharat scheme. So Ayushman Bharat scheme, and then in regards to the opening of the aims, that is health sector, and then tourism, boosting the tourism, third one, and then or else you can part of that is 3A, we can take it tourism infrastructure, wherein Bijli, Sadak and Pani is all taken into consideration, and then fifth one is incentivizing the farmers, and then by National Saffron Mission is the sixth one. So we have various actions being taken up which are transformational development by the government of India in Jammu and Kashmir. And now we will focus at even a confidence building measure being taken up by the government of India, so that the government believe that there can be integration of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh with the other or rest of the country only when there is the grassroots democracy is envisaged by 73rd and 74th Constitution amendments are firmly established in Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory and Ladakh. That is what the government believes. So they wanted the grassroots democracy to strengthen through or envisaged by the 73rd and 74th Constitution. Again, this, if you look at from polity point of view, it is very important for prelims how the 73rd and 74th Constitution amendments can, or else the grassroots democracy can be strengthened in the Union Territory and Ladakh of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, wherein the entire confidence building measure can be taken up by the government of India, and this is definitely an important forerunner so that it will strengthen the democracy. And in regards to the grassroots democracy, definitely the government is very focused in conducting, and there is an election which is an upcoming election in the Ladakh. In Ladakh, that is, you have the district autonomous council elections which is supposed to take place on 16th of October 2020. That is in second week of October this month. There are upcoming elections, that is district autonomous council, but the people of Ladakh are definitely demanding just before or in the wake of the upcoming elections for the district autonomous council, they are demanding that the Ladakh Union Territory be included in the 6th schedule of the Indian Constitution. So here the keyword is the 6th schedule, so that there could be protection given to the people of the Ladakh, the language, and then jobs also can be secured. So they wanted the inclusion of the Union Territory of Ladakh into the 6th schedule. So definitely the grassroots democracy is part of the confidence building measure taken up by the government of India. So I hope the entire discussion which we have taken up, which was very thorough and which was in regards to the comprehensive understanding of the anniversary of the Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh Union Territory after the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A and the Preventive Detention and then Public Safety Act, and then in regards to various schemes taken up by the government and the confidence building measures. So you have a comprehensive knowledge now after my session, that is in regards to the anniversary of the Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh Union Territory. So you are definitely having more of knowledge now, and you are definitely having an edge over others in regards to the prelims and mains UPSC perspective. So I thank you all, and then I would say a good luck to all. And then before you sign off, do like the video, share the video and subscribe the video of Synthesis IAS Academy, wherein the blend of ideas take place. And then I would come up with a new issue based current affairs, which would certainly be a thorough and a comprehensive understanding of a particular current issue based topic. So see you again with a new topic. Thank you very much.